This is Nicolas Zepeda, who once appeared alongside his girlfriend at the time, Narumi Kurosaki. Their love seemed as if it could last forever, despite the distance between them. But their story didn't end peacefully when their relationship fell apart. Instead, it opened the door to a chilling tragedy. When Narumi suddenly disappeared one night, Zepeda quickly became the prime suspect in a massive investigation that spanned 3 continents and involved multiple law enforcement agencies. Police later discovered an online video made by Nicolas, revealing a young man with a disturbingly unstable mindset, someone seemingly capable of anything. Now, let's uncover the story of Narumi Kurosaki, the Japanese student who was murdered in France by her obsessive ex-boyfriend. Narumi was a beautiful young woman with a bright future ahead of her. She grew up in a family of 5 and had a relatively happy life. From 2011 to 2014, she attended Tokyo Metropolitan Kokusai High School before moving to France to continue her studies at the University of Franche-Comté. At just 21, Narumi was learning French and actively participating in student life, fully adapting to her new environment. That is, until December 2016, when she mysteriously vanished. Not long after, police identified a suspect, her ex-boyfriend, Nicolas Zepeda Contreras. Nicolas was a privileged child, the son of a wealthy Chilean executive, and he had an impressive academic record. In 2014, he left his home country of Chile to study in Japan. It was there that he met Narumi, the woman he would later be accused of killing. The two were introduced at a campus party, and by May 2015, they began dating. Their relationship quickly became serious, and by September of that same year, the couple traveled to Chile, where Nicolas introduced Narumi as his partner. Everything seemed to be going well. Even after Nicolas briefly returned to Chile at the end of 2015, he soon went back to Japan to be with Narumi and look for work. But Narumi had bigger dreams. On August 26, 2016, she boarded a plane to France, where she began a new chapter of her life and made new friends. Whether or not they had agreed to a long-term relationship is unclear. But one thing is certain. Shortly after arriving in France, Narumi ended things with Nicolas, leaving him devastated. This breakup happened on October 6, 2016, and just 3 days later, he left Japan and returned to Chile. Why did Narumi end the relationship? The answer is simple. She had fallen in love with another student at her new school, Arthur Del Piccolo. This marked the beginning of Nicolas's downward spiral, one that would ultimately end in tragedy. Just weeks after Narumi moved to France, Nicolas posted a disturbing video online. In it, he coldly laid out what he called conditions for Narumi to follow, his tone calm but menacing. He accused her of doing terrible things and demanded that she obey certain rules if she wanted to maintain their relationship. He warned that if she did not comply within 2 weeks, the conditions would expire. Although the couple officially broke up weeks later, they remained in contact. Narumi continued her new life in France with Arthur until December 2016, when she vanished without a trace. The last time she was seen alive was on December 4th at her dance class. The next day, she failed to show up at school, which immediately worried her friends. They had every reason to be concerned, especially after what had happened the night before. In the early hours of December 5, 2016, more than a dozen students living in Narumi's dormitory reported hearing a loud scream followed by a heavy thud. Some were so alarmed that they texted friends, saying it sounded like someone had been killed. Since Narumi had never missed class before, her absence raised even more red flags. Then something unexpected happened. Narumi's family and friends began receiving text messages from her, claiming she needed to go to the Japanese consulate in Lyon to fix passport issues. Things quickly became suspicious. Her credit card had been used to purchase a train ticket to Lyon, but no one on the train remembered seeing her. The messages grew even more unsettling when Narumi wrote that she was starting a new life with her boyfriend. By December 12th, all communication stopped completely. Soon after, police were alerted and entered Narumi's dorm room. Inside, they found everything perfectly tidy and in order. Normally, this wouldn't have been alarming, but Narumi's friends told investigators that she was not the type of person to keep things so neat. To them, it was a clear sign that something was terribly wrong. The police's first suspect was Arthur, and he was brought in for questioning. He was soon cleared of any involvement, but the interview was not useless. Arthur provided investigators with the name of someone he believed could be connected to Narumi's disappearance. That name, of course, was Nicolas Zepeda. According to Arthur, Nicolas was possessive and extremely jealous. He tried to control who Narumi spoke to and even pressured her to delete some friends from Facebook. At first, investigators were hesitant to suspect Nicolas because he was thought to be far away. However, they soon discovered that on the last night Narumi was seen alive, she had dinner at a restaurant, and she was not alone. The bill from that dinner was paid with a Chilean bank card. When investigators traced it, they were stunned to learn who she had been with that night. Security cameras at the restaurant confirmed that Nicolas was dining with Narumi. Even more damning, the footage later showed the two of them entering her student residence together. Inside Narumi's dormitory, police also uncovered physical evidence of Nicolas's presence. He offered what he claimed was a legitimate explanation for being there, as well as for the noises neighbors heard that night. Nicolas insisted that the couple had been intimate for hours after returning home, and that the screams reported by others were actually sounds of pleasure. By admitting this, he placed himself at the scene, and DNA evidence would later confirm it. On that night, forensic teams found Nicolas's fingerprints on a drinking glass in Narumi's apartment, along with his DNA on several other items and in the bathroom. If his story were true, such evidence might be expected. However, investigators soon uncovered something that changed the direction of the case entirely: a bloodstain on the emergency exit door. Testing confirmed that the blood belonged to Narumi. Back inside Narumi's room, police noticed her winter coat, laptop, and wallet were still there. More troubling, however, was what was missing: her passport, her phone, and one of her suitcases. Soon after, an arrest warrant was issued for Nicolas, but investigators quickly learned he had already fled the country. Had Nicolas acted out violently because Narumi failed to comply with the conditions he had laid out in his earlier video? The manhunt began. By December 28, 2016, Narumi's case was officially upgraded from a missing person investigation to a potential homicide. Despite the initial challenges of distance, evidence continued to point directly to Nicolas's presence in France at the time of her disappearance, beyond DNA and surveillance footage showing the two of them together that night. Police confirmed they had dined at La Table de Gustave, just outside Besançon. The Chilean bank card used to pay the bill was quickly verified as belonging to Nicolas. Further investigation revealed Nicolas had also been seen in Dijon, purchasing flammable liquid from a supermarket. After leaving France, he traveled directly to Barcelona, where he stayed with his cousin, Juan. Nicolas told him a very different story about why he was in Europe. According to Juan, Nicolas claimed he was there to attend a conference in Geneva, a lie that police easily disproved. Later, Juan recounted to investigators conversations in which Nicolas asked about death by suffocation and referred to Narumi in the past tense. In February 2017, the first extradition request against Nicolas was rejected by Chilean authorities. Investigators decided to wait until they had stronger evidence before trying again. Later, French investigators traveled to Chile and were finally able to interrogate their suspect. More than a year after Narumi's disappearance, they asked Nicolas nearly 100 different questions. To their disappointment, he chose to remain silent. Still, this gave French authorities the chance to directly present their evidence against him. Perhaps it was this personal visit that convinced the Chilean judicial system, because in July 2020, they finally approved Nicolas Zepeda's extradition. The prime and only suspect in this case would now stand trial in France at the very university where Narumi once studied, in what the French Ministry of Justice labeled a significant trial. On December 24, 2020, Nicolas appeared before a judge. He was formally charged with murder, despite the fact that Narumi's body had never been found. He was remanded into custody at a French detention center to await trial. The trial date was set for March 29, 2022, where Nicolas would face both a judge and a jury. More than 18 months after police first entered Narumi's apartment, and after the room had been preserved as a crime scene, the trial finally began. It spanned multiple time zones, included dozens of witnesses, and drew significant attention from both the media and the public. Although Narumi's body was still missing, the evidence against Nicolas was overwhelming. The prosecution presented more than 20 witnesses, all of whom testified to hearing disturbing noises on the night Narumi disappeared. One witness, a student from Scotland, was so terrified by what she heard that she locked her door and immediately texted friends. She described the screams as something straight out of a horror movie, certain they came from the same hallway. In another message, she told friends it sounded like someone was being murdered. Security cameras also captured a man resembling Nicolas loitering around Narumi's dormitory as early as December 1st. Before he had even re-established contact with her, he had also rented a car while in France, which was spotted multiple times around campus. Again, the same figure, believed to be Nicolas, was seen behind the student residence. He stopped briefly, took photos with his phone, disappeared, then returned minutes later to take more pictures from the exact same spot. He was recorded near the dorm around 6 a.m. and returned 2 more times within the hour. Additional evidence included his purchase of flammable liquids, as well as a disturbing video where he threatened Narumi with a list of conditions she was expected to follow. Investigators also discovered that messages Narumi's family and friends received after her disappearance had actually been sent by Nicolas, who hacked her social media accounts to mislead the investigation. French authorities later intercepted private messages between Narumi and Zepeda, revealing him to be a controlling, jealous boyfriend whose behavior had become increasingly unstable. Even more troubling, Nicolas had been seen in a nearby forest just days before Narumi vanished. The area was searched extensively, but no trace of her body was ever found. For his defense, Nicolas hired well-known attorney Jacqueline Lafont, a Parisian lawyer famous for representing former French President Nicolas Sarkozy. Narumi's family was represented by Sylvie Galli, while Narumi's parents and her sister Narumi Kurosaki also attended the trial. Throughout the proceedings, Nicolas firmly denied murdering Narumi or disposing of her body. However, the prosecution argued that he had violently struggled with her before disposing of her remains in the forest, where he was seen days earlier. On April 12, 2022, the jury, composed of 3 men, 3 women, and 3 judges, found Nicolas Zepeda guilty of murder. He was sentenced to 28 years in prison, with at least 15 years to be served in France before potentially completing the remainder in Chile. Almost immediately after his conviction, Zepeda filed an appeal. But with the overwhelming evidence against him, it is very likely that he will spend many more years behind bars, finally bringing justice to Narumi Kurosaki and her family. That wraps up today's case. Thank you for watching until the end. If you found this content meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video.